Okay, guys, so I've had this video on the radar for a little while, and I thought we'd talk about it. As you can tell, this is about where I live. This is my city. This is where I'm at currently, the poorest city in America, where you can buy a starter home for $50,000. Let's watch this guy's video.
I am in the cheapest city in America to buy a house
Cheapest?
right now. And this city, it also happens to
Yeah,
be one of
I
the
mean, it's pretty
poorest
cheap.
cities in America. I'm in Charleston, West Virginia, which is the capital of West Virginia, where the typical value of a house is less than $140,000, and the median household income is barely
Typical value of a house like 20 years ago was like $60,000, by the way. Like, this has more than doubled. Like, this area, even though it's like still incredibly cheap, like a year ago, it was way cheaper. Way cheaper.
over $50,000. This is an area that is economically downtrodden and has lost lots of population. As I walk around in this video, you're gonna see
Yeah, every single year, more people leave than what come to this state. There's just not that many jobs to sustain things. I remember when I was a kid and I was going to school around here and everything, that there were people in my classes who were just like, "Oh, I'll just go into the mines. I don't need to pay attention to this. I'll just go into the mines." The mines employ like less than 1,000 people, I want to say now, something like that.
a lot of vacant storefronts, and you're gonna see some rundown buildings. However, what's interesting is I spend more time here in West Virginia, in Charleston specifically. I find that it's actually not so bad a place.
No, it's really
You know,
not.
it's an area that, despite its difficulties, is actually affordable for the average person who lives here.
And it's pretty chill.
What I mean by that is that someone could actually earn the median income here in Charleston. In fact, they could probably work at Dollar Tree and still earn enough money to be able to afford to buy a house.
Okay, I disagree with that. So, he says that you can earn enough money to buy a house. He's talking $10 an hour. Working at a place like Dollar Tree, you're talking 30 hours a week if you're lucky. Working at somewhere like Dollar Tree, probably more like 27, 28 hours a week because of the way they run things. They don't want to give you health care. You're making $10 an hour, $280 a week, minus your taxes. That's more like $235 a week over the course of, 4 weeks in a month. You're talking like, I don't know, like less than $1,000 a month. Not a lot of money to really buy a house off of. I get what he's saying. There aren't a whole lot of jobs around here. This is the problem that I've sort of had. Like, all of my friends who make good money that are my age are like bartenders or servers. That's where, and it's all tip money. It's not like a real employment job. And then I have a few friends who work at like some call centers or who work like selling insurance or doing things like that do okay for themselves as well. But there's so few like companies in this city now that people are actually employed by and actually work for. There used to be like, there's a stamping plant around here that some people are employed by. If you go like 40-ish miles in another direction, you get to a Toyota plant that employs quite a few people. But there's not a whole lot of like office jobs or anything like that around here. Banks, grocery stores, Dollar Trees, Dollar Generals like crazy. Those are the kinds of places that you have to work around here. And then restaurants.
Something that's actually really impressive in America in 2024 with this raging housing crisis, that there's still cities
Post office.
where Americans can afford to buy a house.
Government.
The typical house payment here in Charleston is less than $1,000 a month, with your annual property tax
That's all of your money that you made at Dollar Tree that month.
is being less than $1,000 a year. And as I go through this video and show you different neighborhoods, you're gonna see that there's actually lots and lots of houses that are for sale on the market for less than $100,000. I mean, you can get
totally.
3-bed, 2-bath starter homes in this city for 50, 60 grand. Of course, the question is,
He's walking over on the west side right now. Like, I know exactly what area he's standing
would
in.
you actually want to live in Charleston, West Virginia? You can see
This is not really an area that I would want to be standing talking on a camera to. You know what I mean? Like, this is not a place that I would want to be doing this in personally. It gets like, this is like the roughest stretch of road ever right here. This road that you see over here in the corner that's sort of driving down, like, this is where you see streetwalkers at night. This is where you see like ladies of the night, and people following the ladies of the night and being like, man, I hope this person gets home okay.
It's definitely an industrial town. You can see that a lot of the buildings here look like they were built in the 40s and 50s.
This is a historic district for sure. So right now, this part of the city is kind of being gentrified, and it's being called Elk City all of a sudden. We always called this the West Side growing up. West Side, dude. The West Side and the East End of Charleston is like, east of this on the other side of town. The East End was also a very historical district, although historically a lot more like bougie white people sort of lived on the East Side or the East End. This is more like, this is more like the poor people, immigrant people. This is like a a part of town that is, you know, historically underserved and underfunded, whereas the East End is more a place that had like the what would be the term here? Like the school district, the education, whatever. I can't even think of the phrase. You know what I mean? That's where all that stuff is. That's where like the government buildings and all those things are. That's the other end of town.
Really have not been upgraded by much since then.
And then in the middle, there's downtown, and downtown has a couple of sky rises and things. There is a proper city in Charleston. It's not very big, but there are like some buildings with elevators in them.
The railroad tracks over here. We got some people hanging out. And you can see kind of here we're getting onto the edge of town. You can see there's some houses here up on the hill. There's actually lots of topography here in Charleston. Like many Midwest towns, it's very hilly.
Right, we're not in the Midwest. Technically, we're in the South.
This is the local gas station. I'm going to take you around town.
I don't know why, but we are.
Interesting character just came up to the side of my car and started yelling at me.
Yeah. Yeah, this is Charleston. Okay, so like he's at a bad gas station. I wouldn't stop at this gas station personally. In fact, there is a Kroger gas station like 1 block over from where he is right now, and I would probably go there, but even then that one's sketchy. There actually is a really sketchy looking 7-Eleven that's another like 2 blocks down, 3 blocks down the other way. And that one's not so bad, honestly. Like I've never had a problem there. That's like a place where everyone's very chill and relaxed. This is where the homeless people sort of hang out. This area, there's a Kroger in this area as well. And like there's a lot of
this
homeless
in Charleston so far. But let me give you guys a little tour of what it looks like around here.
Yeah.
So you guys can get a better sense of, you know, whether this is a place that you would ever buy a house. And so we're on the west side of town right now. You can immediately see a for sale sign right there. There's lots of for sale signs. Lots of, especially...
I have friends who live on the west side, and whenever I go over there, I think, like, do you not feel afraid to live here? Like, the west side is a place to where there are just people walking down the street yelling at themselves, just loud. Like, stuff gets stolen out of your car, there's smash and grabs, like, I don't want to live on the west side. I mean, you know... God love the people who do live over there. I know a lot of people who have lived over there their entire lives and they become very used to it. But like, it just gives me anxiety to be on foot on the west side of town. I used to walk. So like this hill, if you see this hill up here, I used to walk from this hill. I had a friend that lived over here on this hill, and we would walk down through here all the way down this road. So from way back there, and then go another like 2 miles back down this road, and that would take us to the like mall, and that's what we would do pretty regularly, or we'd catch the bus and ride it.
Commercial properties that are vacant. On this light here, you could see looking down
this
is
when
way,
I was like 15.
There's some hills on the left. There's actually some nice houses up there on that.
Yeah, there are some palatial estates for sure. I mean, there are some really rich people who live in Charleston. It's like coal mining country and everything, so there are a lot of natural resources. There is like you know, a frontier outpost that's right across from where I live. There are some really, really rich people, and there are some places I've delivered some places. I did Instacart, dude. There are some places where you pull up and there's like tennis courts out there, dude. Like, I mean, the house just goes on and on. Like, they own huge amounts of property, and they're hidden around bins and stuff. It's real secretive up in them hills, dude.
We're gonna look at some of those nice houses later. I'm gonna show you guys how much a nice house costs here. Because a nice house here is much cheaper than anywhere else.
You're probably 300 to 500 grand.
Yeah, another for sale sign. This house looks abandoned and potentially even condemned. You can see a couple for sale signs right there. As we head up here to one of the main streets, I'm going to make a right turn soon.
Yeah, so this gas station is where we would walk by to get Arizona's when we were walking that long strip. There's also what's called a Tudor's pretty close by. I wonder if he'll show a Tudor's in this video. Tudor's is like a biscuit place. We'd run down here and get biscuits too.
And we're gonna
I stayed at that guy's house a lot when I was a kid. Like, summers were spent there a lot of times.
The main business district. And Charleston's interesting. It has a metro population of 250,000 people, which is pretty small. I mean, West Virginia overall only has about 1.6, 1.7 million people. So Charleston is, I believe, the second largest metro, biggest city. And this is where most of the commerce is. This is where the state capital is. So what you're seeing in front of you, this is kind of like the best West Virginia has to offer.
He is doing such a so that kind of makes me angry that he says that what you're seeing in front of you is kind of the best West Virginia has to offer. There is an actual city here. He is showing you like the outcroppings of the city, the more rundown, like less centralized places, and that kind of irritates me. There are like I mean, not skyscrapers. We're talking like, I don't know, 30-story buildings or something like that in the downtown area of Charleston. There is a small skyline. There are apartment buildings that are like, you know, 15 stories, things like that. He's doing a huge disservice to this town. That being said, there's not a whole lot going on in the downtown actually anymore. The mall is basically all but condemned at this point. They're repurposing it into like a sports activity center to bring in football tournaments and stuff like that. And then there's like a single street that has a couple of offshoots from it that house like all of the local restaurants that are higher end and kind of nicer. And then there's bars on that street as well. And that's basically like the entirety of Charleston's nightlife and things to do. There's some little stores around. There's, in this area that he's in currently, there's a couple of places that are kind of cool. Like there's a record shop that I don't really care much about going in. There's a burger place called Gonzo Burger, which I don't actually know if that's still there anymore. And then there's a print store called, oh, I can't remember what it's called, but they do like prints and things, and it's
in
kind of a weird place.
terms of vitality and things to do. You can see a lot of the houses here are kind of this old brick style.
This is the convention center. On the other side of this convention center over here, there is like the skyrise or the high rises
very
and stuff.
Popular in like the 30s. And
Once again,
40s.
we're not talking very
A lot
tall
of these
here.
Midwest towns, you see kind of a lot of stuff like this in Pennsylvania as well, maybe throughout Ohio. Actually kind of made the base quality.
This kid, bro, like I have major like this kid right here. I feel kinship with this kid. Like, my parents live more in the country. My parents live in what's called a holler. So, like, if you see the mountains and the back shots of all of this, like, mountains will come together like this, and then up in between those mountains, we'll put houses in there, and those are what we call hollers. And that's where I grew up, was in a holler. But a house, somewhere with this kind of income, like, this speaks to me, man.
Well,
if not me, my
Ohio.
friends when I was growing up, for sure. Like, this, haircut
base
and all
quality
that.
of construction is probably pretty good, but you can see just a lot of these houses have fallen into a certain degree of disrepair. You can see actually one of the biggest buildings here downtown is the West Virginia Lottery.
This is still not downtown. This is the edge of down. This is on the other side of the river from downtown. I really wish this guy would actually go downtown. He's starting to irritate me.
When one of the buildings on the skyline is the state lottery.
Yeah, it is kind of a huge employer, honestly. I mean, the West Virginia Lottery is absolutely massive, dude. People do it all the time, but that's a whole other thing.
Shows that there's not a whole lot else going on. Now we're gonna head towards the Civic Center. You can see that sign right there. The Civic Center is kind of the entertainment center, convention center.
Yeah, it's a convention center.
Downtown. You can see it right over there.
Yeah, there it is.
That's the Civic Center. All right, now we're going across the river here.
Cool. Okay, so now he's actually starting to drive downtown, so we'll see some of like actual downtown Charleston right now. You can see like these parking garages. This is all for the Civic Center. They have like pretty big concerts here. Like Tom Segura came through here. Burt Kreischer came through here. Lots of people. Theo Von came here. Like we get a lot of comedians. We get a lot of music acts as well. I close the door. It's late here, guys. Tiff's sleeping. So like lots of people are coming through nowadays. This was completely redone in the past few years and was given a huge upgrade along with our library, our local library, which has gotten like a huge upgrade. It looks really, really good. So this is like another. There's like, see, there's a couple of tall buildings around.
You can see.
Not anything really amazing. To me, West Virginia always strikes me as being like, if you've ever seen photos of Pacific Island kind of places, Pacific Islander or Philippines, something like that, or Indonesia. West Virginia reminds me of that. Not only the skyline and the way the cities are set up, but also the way that like the agriculture looks, like the mountains and the greenery and all of that. All to me looks like, Pacific Ocean type island nations.
This is actually the hotel I stayed in last night. This is the Marriott. This looks like mid-1970s Marriott that hasn't gotten an update in quite a while. Although the inside of it wasn't too bad, but the outside definitely looks pretty dated. And then here on the right, this is the mall. So the center of the downtown is a mall, which you can see this entrance is blocked.
Dude, this mall is so bad now. When I was a teenager, like it wasn't even in its glory then. When I was a kid, this mall was awesome, dude. Multi-floor fountains. We had like big events going on. People playing pianos all around it. There was just like lots of stuff happening. There was FYEs. There was a KB Toys, bro. There were GameStops. Like there were just so many cool things to do inside the downtown town center mall. It was absolutely massive. Nowadays, it's a shell of its former self. I mean, I was a mall rat kid for sure. Like I would get dropped off at the mall, and me and my friends would all hang out inside of there, and it was incredible. Go around, get pretzels, do that whole thing, drink coffee from Starbucks. It was the only place we had a Starbucks. Go hang out in FYE or Spencer's or Hot Topic or whatever, like PacSun, those kinds of things. That was always a good time, dude. The mall was magical, man. Like, whew, man, makeout sessions in the mall, dude. You know, like one time I was sitting on a bench and like scene girls came up and asked to touch my hair, which was very odd. But it was a good time, dude. The mall was a good place, and now it's worthless, dude. Like, just the only people walking through the mall are people who want to get out of the heat or like, you know, zombies.
You have to keep going up this.
My idea for the mall, the way we repurpose the mall, is we just give it to the homeless people, and you keep it open to the public, but you just make it like this post-apocalyptic. And I'm not talking like you make it a homeless shelter. This is a horrible thing, but like I'm talking like you just set up barrels full of burning garbage all over the place. You like dim all the lights. You like have wires hanging down stuff. You like arm them all with like baseball bats and things. And you just like, it's like an adventure, you know? It's like a concentrated part of Charleston, because that's what Charleston feels like half the time anyways. Listen, I love my city. I really do. It is gritty. It is grimy. It is, I mean, you can look at this, man. Like, everything is dirty where I live. There is nothing clean. Like, this is like one of the most important places in our town, probably. And look at how dirty and filthy everything is. Look at how unmaintained everything is, dude. Like, the roads are garbage, bro. Like, the people are somewhat dangerous and strange. Like, it's an odd place, man.
To get to the mall. And this was also another common trend of Midwest cities. Like, a lot of Midwest cities had the mall,
not in the Midwest,
as the center of the downtown.
Very heavily the South, which is interesting. You know, we split from the South whenever little in fact about West Virginia's history. We actually split from the South during the Civil War, and we sided with the North during that one. So, you know, all those racism comments that people tend to throw at us, dude, like, miss us with that, dude.
Like, I lived in Columbus, Ohio for a year, and Columbus used to have a mall in the center of the downtown, which they eventually took down and deconstructed and made a park. You can see Charleston.
That would be nice to have a park. A giant park in the middle of Charleston would be really, really cool. We need more shopping. We need more buildings. We need more revitalization. There's a lot of issues going on with Charleston currently that it's like set up for an older period and an older time. We do not look like a modern city whatsoever. Like, I've gone to places like Minneapolis, and I've gone to places like Tampa and all those places, and they just look like modern cities, you know? They have big areas set aside in the middle of the larger part of their actual city that have like a Trader Joe's or like, you know, a Whole Foods and all that. There isn't a single, in the entirety of the downtown area of Charleston, there isn't a single grocery store that isn't like a convenience store. You have to go further out of the city limits. Like I said, right on the west side, there is the sketchiest Kroger that you've ever been to. It's so sketchy, there's not even a bathroom in there. They don't even have a public restroom in there. I'm assuming because they just like can't trust people to go into that stall in that Kroger. But like, I mean, it's really hard to get groceries. You talk about a food desert, man. West Virginia, Charleston, West Virginia is a food desert through and through, man. Even like the grocery stores around here aren't stocked properly and don't have, you know, the quality of ingredients that I've seen in other places. It's really astounding.
Actually, the J.C. Penney entrance right there. You can see here at the stoplight, we got one tall building here. This is a Huntington Bank building.
Yeah.
Looks to be about maybe 25
stories, probably,
stories,
yeah. 25, 30, something like that.
We
Yeah.
have further down, we see a Truist Financial building. This is another bank. So we have a second bank building.
The only modern looking buildings,
Chase
basically.
Building right
yeah.
there. And so
are all
that's really
banks.
the skyline, everyone.
Yeah,
it's
and there's
bank
like,
buildings.
this is a building that has some pretty cool offices in it. I used to clean some of the offices that were in this building. There are a couple of tall, more historic buildings, and by tall I mean like 10 to 13 stories, which are, you know, tall for this style of building for sure. And those are cool. They're very historic. Like, I've been in some of them sometimes that are very creepy. Like, when I was cleaning them, it was, you know, midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, and I would be inside these buildings all by myself, and you just hear noises in there constantly because they're so old.
It's in the state lottery.
It's pretty wild.
I walked around down here earlier. There wasn't too much going on.
This is a good area to walk in. Like, you are completely safe down here. If you are drunk at 2 in the morning, you're probably safe walking on one of these streets. Sometimes you'll see people sleeping underneath here in the night. There's a park over here, or like a little a communal area outside of an office building over here to the left. You can see where these trees are. It's a little park. People will sleep there sometimes. The homeless people in this area are very chill usually. They might demand a cigarette from you if they see you smoking a cigarette, but otherwise they're very chill. The homeless people on other parts of town that have been run out by like these homeless people, those are the ones that are sketchy, dude.
It's a pretty sleepy town, pretty quiet, pretty quaint. Hard to see any type of economic boom coming Charleston, West Virginia's way, given by the state of its downtown.
Of course.
East Steps Tuxedo Rental, dude. This place has the ugliest suits ever hanging in the windows, and I always wondered who's actually renting these. They just look so bad. It's so confusing to me.
Coming Charleston, West Virginia.
Blue leisure suits and things hang in the window. There's so many businesses in Charleston that I'll point them out to Tiff. I'm like, how does that place stay open? She goes, it's a drug front.
Way, given by the state of its downtown.
Of course, folks, one major issue that West Virginia has is a big drug problem. And this is something that when I dug into the data, I
think he's over in North Charleston now, just because I recognize this.
West Virginia, it's the #1 state for drug overdoses in America. Per capita, there's 90,000.
I've often talked about this before on this channel. I've talked about the way that I feel like everyone kind of did drugs, you know? Like, everyone does drugs. It's just a normal thing to do. Like, yeah, like, we've all, like, smoked a little bit of weed, or, like, we've all done a little bit of pills. Like, we were all kids at one point. But sometimes I realize that this is, like we roughly double the amount of people who do drugs, at least who die from doing drugs, of the next place underneath of us. So, like, it's very possible that my perspective on that is just extremely warped because of how common it is here. I mean, growing up, dude, like, I could probably count the number of people on... you could know the amount of people by name who, like, didn't do drugs in my graduating class, like, whatsoever, had never touched anything.
1,000 drug overdoses.
Probably less than 100 in my graduating class of like 400 people, I would say.
Per year, which is basically 1 out of 1,000 people in West Virginia per year die of a drug overdose. Those are extremely sad statistics and point to why actually home prices here are so cheap and why incomes are so low and why the economy...
Because they're all dying from drugs, bro. That's not it, man. No one wants to live here. Honestly, the only people who live here are people who have remote jobs and move in from out of state at this point, and then people who, like me, who have been here forever. That's it. Like, all the other people want to leave, dude. Like, it's everyone's dream to get out of West Virginia to some degree. I mean, that's not completely true. Like, definitely the older generation, my parents' generation, all those people are, like, here and have been here for a long time. And, like, there were good jobs. Like, my stepdad worked at DuPont plant, and his dad worked at DuPont plant, and there was like multiple chemical plants in the area. In fact, we were called the Chemical Valley once upon a time, and those places employed absolutely tons of people. You could get really good jobs working there. Like I said, the mines used to be a thing that employed tons and tons of people. You could get really good jobs working there as well. Like, there was a time where you could work in West Virginia pretty easily and make like $60,000 a year roughly, you know, once you were like tenured into where you had been and you had been there for a while, and housing was pretty cheap. Like I said, you know, you could buy a home off of 1 year's income. Like, it was definitely a possible place to live at one point in time, but like the struggles of it now are so complicated. Like, yes, there are cheap homes. Nobody here really has good credit. No one here has any way of building good credit because you're born into poverty a lot of times. When you're born into poverty, then it's like hard to get jobs. There's a very low graduation rate in West Virginia. Like, there's a huge issue with the living population in West Virginia. We like do not have good systems in place to take us through. The city is not built very well. Like, it's just not set up in a way that makes you want to be in it and go around and do things. There's like not a lot of parking anywhere. All the parking that is there is in parking garages, and the garages all cost money now. It's just a whole bunch of stuff. Like, it's very uninviting to people who live here. You know, most people stay out of Charleston. There's like the townies that live in Charleston. I live across the river from Charleston. Like, I can see the capital from my house. Like, I'm on the side of a mountain, literally the side of a mountain, and I can like look down and see the capital from where I live. But like, a lot of people who live in Charleston live in like South Charleston, Bell, Campbell's Creek. Like, the creeks that are around creeks are a whole other thing that we could talk about at some point. But all those people just like look at Charleston. They really don't like to go downtown. My parents do not go downtown ever if they can avoid it.
Is not doing so good. It's this negative feedback loop that's going on of a downturn in the economy, downturn in demographic growth, which is then leading more people to use drugs and leading to more deaths, which in turn is causing the economy to decline by more. And what shocked me about the drug overdose statistics is that not only is West Virginia #1, it's #1 by far. The
Yeah.
second biggest state for drug overdoses is Tennessee, which is at 55 per 100,000 per capita. So West Virginia is
Yeah.
almost 2 times higher than second place. And I'm actually also surprised at the amount of homelessness I'm seeing here in Charleston, West Virginia. You would think for how cheap the housing is and how affordable it is.
It's mental health issues. Like, this is the thing. Like, oh, they should be able to afford it. No, dude, it's not about that, bro. People are like broken around here a lot of times. I love the city, dude. I've got really good friends here. People are really great here. People are really, really kind. They'll give you the shirt off their backs. People who have nothing will give you everything they have. Like, people are very, very nice in Charleston. But there's a lot of mental health that's going on. A lot of mental health issues, dude. There's like no help for it. There's like, like the majority of people don't have insurance around where I live. The majority of people don't have dental insurance. They don't feel like that they're valued as people. I mean, like, the amount of posts that I've seen from people are like, well, I guess I can't afford to have teeth anymore. Things like that, dude. Like, this town is so difficult to live in and survive in and do well in that it just breaks people over and over and over and over again, man. Like, I have seen it time and time again. I have seen so many people do horrible things, dude. Like, I could tell you stories about people that have, like, lived in houses with corpses. I can tell you stories about people who believed that they had demons living in the copper wire, and they tore all the copper wire out of their house and threw it in their front yard. Like, there are wild things. People are just snapping in this city, in this state all the time. Like, it's really, really bizarre, man. And then it's so funny because you watch people move here from out of state who, like, are well put together and everything. Sorry, I have like a crick in my neck today. There are people who move here from out of state who are well put together and well-meaning, and they have, they're like a lawyer for some business, and they're a remote worker, and they have all this money. Like, yeah, we bought a whole bunch of properties, and we live in this nice house, and blah blah blah. And you talk to them like, oh, we love going and watching, movies in the bottom of the basement of this bookstore, and like, we think it's a really cool little town. It's like, dude, the people who have been born here and like lived here and don't have a way out of this place, like, it's such an odd thing to view,
That there wouldn't be so much homelessness. Like, actually, if you go and look at rentals, you can rent a house here for $800, $900 a month.
Yeah, you could.
Which is less than 10 grand a year, which is less than 20% of the median income.
Where's that house at? 912 Michael Avenue. Let's see where 912 Michael Avenue is real quick. I don't even know where Michael Avenue is. It's still up for rent, dude. So this is Washington Street West. This is across the river. Can I see anything here that, like, what is this close to? The Ramada. Okay, so this is back, like, Circle and Food Market, West Side Market and Deli. Is this on the west side? Like, where at on the west side? North Charleston Recreation Center. Oh, I know where this is. This is in North Charleston. But it doesn't look like it's in North Charleston. Like, this is the Ramada, because this is Patrick Street. Okay, I know exactly where this is, actually. Okay, this is by Patrick Street. This is the ghetto. This is like a sketchy neighborhood, for sure. Lots of projects right around this place. This is like a very sketchy kind of place. Regular gunshots over here in this area. So, like, yeah, you could rent a house for that. You could rent a house for that, for sure. I get what he's saying. I would be afraid to rent a house for that myself. You know what I mean? Like, now where I live is cheaper than that. I will say that, but it's not a house. I live in a townhouse. I live on the side of a mountain, and I'm not close to town, but, like, this guy doesn't do a very good job of portraying the way it actually feels to live in this city. But I can't fault him for that, because he doesn't live here. He doesn't know.
Is less than 20% of the median income, making Charleston one of the cheapest income-adjusted places to rent in America.
Folks, you can see we're heading up now in the hills. We're going to look at our first house on this trip here in West Virginia. It's a house that's...
These kinds of houses, bro, like, this isn't a holler. This is almost, he's like going up a mountain right now. These kinds of houses, man, I remember these kinds of houses, brother. This is like, Campbell's Creek housing. Like, a lot of my friends live in houses like this, dude.
First house.
Spent a lot of time drinking alcohol in houses like this when I was a teenager,
for $85,000. A 3-bed house on the market for $85,000, everyone. So that gives you an idea of just how affordable some of these areas are, and some of the houses that we're passing are. The big question is on a lot of these houses is how much in repairs are you going to have to do after you buy it? Because the big trend I'm seeing and that you can kind of see is that a lot of the houses, not all of them, but a lot of them are...
This is very West Virginia, by the way. Like this area, like going up a hill, incline going up, lots of trees around you, like houses that are, some of them are really nice looking, and then occasionally you'll see one that's like really run down, and then sometimes you'll see a whole bunch of them that are really run down. That's very West Virginia to me.
Degree of disrepair. And so we got to see what we got here.
So here's the house, everyone. It's $85,000. It's a 3-bed, 3-bath. And it's actually a foreclosure. This is going to auction. So the listing actually says disregard the listing price, but it looks like a couple months ago it actually sold for $35,000. So I think the bank might have taken it over for $35,000 and wants $85,000 for it. If you look at the pictures on the inside, you can actually see that this is a livable house. Looks like you can buy it and probably move into it. And it's here in a neighborhood which actually looks pretty decent. Most of the houses here on this street look pretty well maintained. It looks like most of them are occupied and have an owner. Whoops, spoke too soon.
$85,000 to me is still like crazy prices. But once again, I remember when starter homes around this area were like $40,000, and you know, 85 grand is a lot to get a loan for sure.
We got one for sale right here. Looks like it's been vacant for a while. Looks like it's abandoned. So that's actually just 2 doors down from that house that I just showed you. As I continue to walk down the street, I see some houses that look pretty decent on either side. But then it looks like we have another house that looks abandoned. This house looks like it does not have an owner. No one has mowed the lawn in a long time. And so this is one of the reasons why home prices in West Virginia and Charleston are so cheap.
Just aren't people living here.
There's a lot of vacant, abandoned houses. In fact, the city of Charleston, in the city limits, the population has declined from 85,000 in 1960 down to 50,000 in 2020. So the population here has dropped by 50% over the last 60 years. And obviously that's something that's going to wreak havoc on your local housing market. If you have a 50% decline in population over 6 or 7 decades, it's going to mean that there's just lots of extra houses that no one's living in, lots of inventory on the market. And so that's something you got to watch out for, you know, in your housing market, right? If you live in a city that's losing population, that's probably not a good sign for the future direction of home prices. Now, on the flip side,
you know, one trend that I've noticed amongst, so like a lot, like I don't know a whole lot of my friends who have actually owned homes around here, which I find very interesting because like on paper, it seems good, right? 85,000 for a house, like that seems like a great price to pay. It seems very possible. But like, dude, even my friends who make good money, a lot of them say like, oh, we got a house. And then you find out that they're renting a home from somebody, or they're like renting to own a home from somebody. There is such a proliferation of bad credit, I think, in my generation in this state. Like, I think that a lot of people just have a very hard time, like, balancing their finances and figuring all of that stuff out because they're just not really taught that. Like, no one really ever gave me any information about any of that stuff when I was younger, for sure. And it's only through me being an adult and like finding people like Dave Ramsey and all those kinds of people to like tell me about it. But you know, like you don't hear about many people buying homes around my age who are like in the same kind of scenes that I am.
It means that home prices are very affordable and are still attainable for the average family or average individual in the area. And so this is the flip side of that equation, is that if you live locally here and want to live in a, you know, decent looking neighborhood that's not too bad, seems pretty safe here, you're only going to have to shell out $85,000 for
I don't know exactly where he is, but I know what kind of place that he's in currently. This is a pretty good neighborhood. You go up a hill, it flattens off and levels out, and there's like houses up there that like some of them have steps that you're missing a step and stuff like that, but most of the houses are nice and there's nobody walking around up there.
And your monthly payment, it's going to be something like $650, $700 a month.
I just turn off the Metallica. So just, we're now leaving that house for $85,000, and you can see actually like some of these surrounding neighborhoods to the house I just showed you actually like look pretty nice.
Yeah.
You know, very hilly, as you can see. Make sure you have good brakes on your car.
It's all hills in West Virginia.
Charleston, but like,
it's literally mountains that just go straight down to a valley, and in that valley is where the city actually is. Like I said, the majority of people don't live in the city. Like I would say population-wise, like maybe 30% of the population is actually in Charleston proper, and then the rest of the population is out in the hills and in the surrounding areas.
if we just take a look at some of these houses, we see a school bus here.
I'm hill people. I've always been hill people my whole life. I'll be hill people until the day I die, dude. You know, I was born in the hills. I lived in the hills. I did everything I do in the hills. I live in the hills now. There's valley people out here, you know, people who live in the valley, people who live on the river people. I'm not one of the river people, dude. The river people are different from me, but that's okay. I like the river people. They're nice. I've dated river people before. Just not for me, dude. Not a flat ground kind of person. I want to be up. I want to be away from the waters. It floods here. Flooding's not good. You want to stay away from them floods. Water goes down hills, not up hills. You're on top of a hill. You don't got to worry about no floods. That's what I've learned over my lifetime.
You know, to me, this looks like a pretty solid neighborhood.
Don't even get me started on the water people, dude. Don't even get me started about them Sissonville people.
It's not one that's going to jump off the page at you with lots of mansions and super rich people living here, but you know, as far as a neighborhood where you can get a quality of
to me, these are really nice houses. There are some actual like mansions in Charleston, but to me, these are really nice houses. These are like you've made it kind of houses. You have a job that is stable. You probably can afford to have kids. That's what these kinds of places are.
An affordable house and be around some decent
American
neighbors.
Dream type shit.
I'm
That's
liking
what all
what
this
I'm
is
seeing so far.
And that might sound kind of sad, honestly. Like looking at these houses, I know maybe that sounds kind of sad, but like, you know, poor people housing in West Virginia is really bad. You're talking like roofs falling in, you know, missing windows, stuff like that, like pieces of plywood up and about. Like if your house is been painted in the past decade and it's clean and you have a car sitting in the driveway and everything, like you're doing pretty well in West Virginia. I mean, this person's got an above ground pool, dude. It's not an in-ground pool, but like, you know, they're doing good for themselves.
Especially when you think about how much these houses cost. But again, we have another one that's abandoned.
Someone might live in that house, dude. I've delivered to places like that.
I'm liking what I'm seeing so far. You know, especially when you think the one that's abandoned.
See, there's a chair up there. There's a bench, dude. That bench would be stolen if it was abandoned. Also, this is like some guy's like, you know, he's got like a little dustpan. This is a kept house. This is the thing. This guy thinks this is abandoned, brother. You ain't seen an abandoned house. Someone definitely lives here. I can tell there's curtains in these windows. Someone is living here, dude. For sure, someone is living here. This might be an older person who's in like their 80s or 90s now, and they just kind of can't keep up with everything anymore. They don't have the money to really do things anymore. Like that's another thing that happens a lot with older people in West Virginia, right? Like you do see some middle class people in West Virginia, but then a lot of times when people retire, they go from being middle class and like they slowly decline because they just don't have the ability to make money. Because a lot of the times the way that you make money in West Virginia is so hard on your body that by the time you retire, you're just done for. And like you don't really have a whole bunch of savings, so you weren't making that much money. You were just kind of making enough money to get by when you were working, you know?
And so now the next thing we're gonna do, folks, I'm gonna take you to a house in a nicer neighborhood where the houses are a bit more expensive. And actually some of these houses I'm about to show you
Let's go to
are
South
mansions.
Hills, dude.
And you're not gonna believe the price that you would have to pay for a mansion here.
Now, folks, we're now on the south side of town here in Charleston.
South Hills, yep.
And take a look at this listing behind me. It's a mansion.
So South Hills is across the river from downtown Charleston proper. South Hills is like the kind of area that I live in, although I live at the foot of South Hills. I live in the like ghetto part of South Hills, but I live in a very quiet, cool neighborhood.
6 beds, 5 baths.
Close to a holler.
Over 6,000
Hill
square
adjacent.
feet.
I'm on the side of a mountain, you know what I mean? These people are in the flats of the South Hills. These people got the real money. They got the space to build these kind of places. I'm living on the side of one of these mountains, dude. You know, the situation that I'm in, you park your car wrong, it's going to flip over. That's just the way that things are around here.
You can see the pictures inside. This is a huge,
These people
huge
got
house.
garages. I ain't seen a garage. I ain't even seen a carport for decades, baby.
Currently listed on the market for $650,000, which is barely over $100 per square foot. So you can get a mansion in Charleston.
$649,000 is an insane price to pay. I would never buy a house for $649,000 in Charleston. I would move to any other city and I would buy any house that I could get for $649,000 before I ever bought a house for this much in Charleston. You would never see me
For
do
600 grand. Now, here's what's crazy actually about this house, everyone. If you look at the listing history, you can see it's been on the market for over a year. They've had to cut the price a bit. But what's really interesting is what
if you're the poorest rich person who's ever lived and you want to move to Charleston, be my freaking guest, dude. But like, oh my gosh, I can't imagine being like, well, I need this giant house and I can only pay $649,000, so I'm going to go to Charleston and get it.
Like
it's
this
just
house sold for,
you know.
Previously, back in 1990, 34 years ago, this house sold for $500,000. So in 34 years, this house has only appreciated $150,000 at the current list price, which is an average appreciation rate per year of 0.8%. So another thing to think about when you think of like West Virginia and Charleston, a lot of these Midwest housing markets, is that they have not appreciated really much at all over the last 2 or 3 decades. Like in many cases, the prices are the same as they were 20 or 30 years ago, and in inflation adjusted terms, the prices are way cheaper. Because we've had about...
Like I said, I remember $40,000 houses being on the market. I remember $60,000 houses being on the market. I remember, like, I mean, I know what my parents' house was worth when I was a kid. I know what it's worth now. Like, they've definitely gone up.
We've had about 120% inflation rate in America.
Maybe these kinds of houses haven't, but there's just like no one to buy these houses now. That's why the price isn't going up any. There's no need for a house like this in Charleston. Very few people live in places like this. Now, I've met some of them for sure. There's some people who do real estate. There's some people who know what they're doing, man, and like really have expensive places around here. And like, props to them, you know. But like, it's pretty rare.
Since 1990, whereas that house over there has only had a 30% inflation rate. So that house is actually 90% cheaper in inflation-adjusted terms today than it was 34 years ago, which is just wild to think about. And it means that there is actually some real value, some real affordability here in West Virginia. And, you know, I think West Virginia is a state that not a lot of people are going to want to move to or thinking of moving to, but if someone is, you know, a remote worker, or if there's a couple that's 2 remote workers, this could actually be a decent idea, because your money can go extremely far here in West Virginia if you buy in the right city, in the right neighborhood. Additionally, if someone is a retiree, someone's retired, this also could be a good state to look at.
And simply put, I mean, those are the people who are moving here right now. Those are all the people that I've met that are coming here from other places. I just don't think that, like, it's the best place for you to look at moving to, personally, you know? Like, there's just not a lot going on in the city. They try, they really do, but, like, they just shoot themselves in the foot over and over and over again. Like, they bring in musical acts that aren't, you know, actually well-known or well-liked. They, like, ruin the infrastructure. They tear up roads, and then they work on them for a decade, and then they just end up rebuilding a worse road than what was there at the first point. Like, it's just, there's so many frustrations that I have with Charleston, but at the same time, it's my freaking home. Like, I love this area. I love the people here. I can draw you a map of this city. I can like outline where every single grocery store is, every single gas station is, every single car lot, every single place of business. Like, I just know so much about this city, and it's hard not to love something that you have that much of a bond with. But with all that being said, like, it is just like a frustrating place to live in. And like, I, as someone who has been here and has all this comfort with it, like, I still get really frustrated. I can only imagine what people would feel like who move here from out of state. And like, you know, there's nothing to do here but go out to restaurants, drink. There's a couple movie theaters, and then there's like grocery stores and stuff. Like, dude, after you live here for a few years, like, there's no reason to leave your house because you've done it all already. There's nothing new showing up. There's like we're just now getting boba tea stores, dude. Like, it's been, like, boba was out 10 years ago, and still people are like we're just now getting them, and people are at least excited about that, dude. It's wild. We don't have a Trader Joe's, bro. We have Aldi, dog. Like, give me a Trader Joe's, give me a Whole Foods, then I'll start staying in the city.
Because the cost of living here is just so cheap. The property taxes on these houses, in many cases, they're less than $1,000 a year. Maybe in this neighborhood, they're a little more expensive, but your money can really go a far way, particularly if you're on a fixed income.
To find the cheapest and most affordable areas to buy a house in America, go.
So this is that guy's video. It was okay. Like, I'd say for someone who's not from West Virginia, who's not from Charleston, that was an extremely good video, an extremely well-researched video. I mean, he probably put, 15, 20 hours into understanding the area and what was going on around here. And like, so like, obviously that was a good video. Just, there's some little discrepancies that I have as somebody who's not like actually, or who's actually from here and like kind of knows what's going on. But like, good video. I wanted to share this with you guys. I wanted you guys to see like where I'm from and kind of understand a little bit more about all of that. So hope you guys enjoyed the video. That's it for today. I'll see you on the next one, and be safe out there. Bye. Bye.